Good morning. This is Bob Paskey again from Democracy Rising America with more on some ideas about what we can do to not get sucked into the dysfunctional system surrounding Trump, and actually a dysfunctional system that has existed for several decades. Dysfunctional mostly because it has excluded most of the people. Most of the people don't have any voice. It has gotten more and more clear that the 1% makes the decisions, and Congress is more like a political theater where we know the outcome if we think about what the 1% wants. At any rate, we are now confronted with, you could hardly doubt that the system is not functioning for most American citizens. And we all know about post-traumatic stress disorder. And we are in some ways suffering from that as a society at this point, the trauma of not only clearly what has happened to our system, that was not so clearly, but it was happening before. But now there can be little doubt. And you might even call it post-Trump stress disorder. Because many people are traumatized and very stressed by what has gone on. And the problem with functioning or not being able to function because of post-traumatic or post-Trump stress disorder is that it's hard to focus, and it's hard to figure out what to do next other than just sort of survive on a very basic level. But we can't do that because there's too much at stake. The survival of the planet is at stake, and the survival certainly of the American dream and American democracy is certainly at stake. So I'm suggesting that we find a cure or find a remedy or find a way to work ourselves out of this post-Trump stress disorder, and that is to do something else with those letters, PTSD. And my suggestion is to have a series of things that we do that are aimed at restoring democracy and developing organizations and institutions that are democratic outside of the system, because most of the organizations and institutions within the system have been so perverted and twisted that it's almost impossible to reform some of them. We almost have to start from no place and reform from a democratic and humanistic kind of position, rather than from the 99% or really the 100% participation, rather than the 1% making the rules. So I would call this the Project to Save Democracy. And that's a general term, but there are many projects that people are even participating now that are not within the system exactly, but they are movements by people to find ways to develop organizations and institutions and movements and get people together who really truly do believe in democracy, and begin to move toward that as a goal, and back to the American dream that included the people of this country. So I'm challenging people actually to think along the lines of a general sort of project, the Project to Save Democracy, and within that to see how many things that are already existing fit. I mean, the most important goal of the Project to Save Democracy is that it's democratic, that it's inclusive, and that it basically supports democratic principles, and is, well, pretty much going in the opposite direction of a society that is ruled by the 1% making decisions for the 99%. We have to go back to, as I've said this before, for want of a better description, back to something we know, and that is after the New Deal, where democracy really had flourished. And that doesn't mean we need to do the New Deal all over again, but we need to rethink what democracy is about, and for our new age to find ways to begin to create a government that actually deals with what the people want and not what the 1% wants. So there are a whole series of things that people can do, and I'm challenging everyone to begin to think about, in a general way, how can we support the project to save democracy, because that's where we are. We need to begin to save democracy. I'll talk about this more later, but I just want your minds to begin to think in that direction and see if that's an idea that can flourish and can provide some center for what kind of actions that we can do outside the system, as well as the things that are being done within the system. And again, if you think this is an interesting idea, share it with your friends or whatever. At any rate, we'll talk again later. Bye now.